over my shoulder and pulled my hair back in a ponytail on my way out the door. "Hey, wait. Don't I get a kiss before you leave?" I walked back to the bed, smiling, and bent over to kiss him. He tenderly stroked my cheek, then sighed with satisfaction. "Will I see you tonight?" he asked. "I can't. I'll be in the studio until late." "But it's Saturday. Come on, Leah." "Sorry. How about dinner tomorrow?" "Okay." "I'll call you," I said. I walked down the stairs beneath the warm grey morning sky. I took my headphones out of my backpack, grabbed a lollipop, and stuck it in my mouth. I ran through the crosswalk just before the light turned red and cut through a park full of flowers on the way to my studio. Well, not really my studio. Not exactly. Not totally. I'd worked hard all through college to get a scholarship that would allow me to have a little space for myself. And this was it. When I stepped in, the scent of paint permeated everything. I dropped my junk in a plush armchair and grabbed the smock hanging on the back of the door. I was nodding it as I walked over to the painting overlooking that old attic space. I shook as I observed the delicate outlines of the waves, the splatter of foam, and the iridescent sunlight that seemed to radiate from the canvas. I grabbed the wood handle of my palette knife and mixed colors as I went on glancing from the corner of my eye at that canvas that seemed, in some eerie way, to be challenging me. I picked up a brush and felt my hand shaking as my memories crashed down. There was a trembling in my stomach as I remembered the night I had come running because I needed right then to paint that stretch of beach I knew so well, even if it had been 3 years since I'd set foot there. 3 years without that bit of sea, so different from all the others. 3 years in which everything had changed. 3 years without seeing him. 3 years without Axel.
Chapter 2. Axel. I glided down the wall of the wave beneath the faint light of dawn, then dropped into the water, closing my eyes while I sank and the sounds of the outer world turned distant. I rose upward when the lack of air got to be too much for me. I struggled to hold onto my surfboard and took a deep breath. Once, twice, over and over. And no matter how many times I inhaled, nothing filled me up inside. I stayed there, floating in the solitude of my sea, contemplating the traces of foam and speckled light shining between the waves, while I asked myself when I'd ever be able to breathe again.
Chapter 3. Leah. I'd been working non-stop all week. Sometimes I got scared when I realized what I was doing was only work. It was a need, or a mix of work and need. Painting was the motor of my life, the reason I'd been able to stay standing, strong, full of material that begged to be dredged up and expressed. I remember the day Axel asked me how I did it, and I answered that I didn't know. I just did it. If he'd asked me that before, I wouldn't have given him the same answer. I'd have confessed that it was my escape valve. That what I didn't know how to express in words, I expressed in colors, forms, and textures. That this was mine, all mine and mine alone, in a way nothing else in the world was. If it hadn't been my birthday, I would have stayed there that night in my little attic until the wee hours of the morning, the way I often did on weekends. But my friends from school were determined to throw me a party, and I couldn't refuse. I got dressed and remembered Blair calling a few hours earlier to congratulate me and let me know that her and Kevin's baby was going to be a boy. It was the best gift I could have gotten that day. I went up to the mirror and braided my hair. It was so long now that I almost always kept it tied back. I'd been thinking over and over about cutting it, but the way it hung down reminded me of the days when I used to walk barefoot and I lived in a house far away from the rest of the world, not worrying about whether or not I needed to take care of it. In that way, too, I had changed.